it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today for a really fun, simple project. This could definitely use up your scrap pieces of paper. All you need is 4 by 2 inches, give or take, or 4 1/4, whatever size you want your card front to be, and we are away laughing. So I am going to start off because you guys know I do not carry a whole lot of coloured cardstock on hand. And I chose to have these little pads here with 3 different shades of each colour. These are from Crafter's Companion. They take up not much room. They are small and that's what I like about them. So I have used these in lots and lots of videos. You can go back and see plenty of videos using these. But any coloured cardstock, or you can create your own using inks as always, which is a really good option. So I went ahead and chose the darkest colour from each of those little paper pads. However, you could go any colours here. This would be really fun and maybe even include some patterned paper. I was keeping it simple today, so I'm cutting these down to be 4 inches by 1 1/2 inches. The paper pad was originally 3 inches in width, so it works out well that I can just cut them down to be 1 1/2 wide because that is half, obviously. And then once I have all of these 4 by 1 1/2 inch pieces, I'm going to cut them on the diagonal. Now, honestly, I'm using my Holtz trimmer here, which is really good. However, I felt when I was cutting them on the diagonal that I needed to be I wanted to be precise anyhow. So I did take off that little protector, plastic protector, and I still wasn't quite getting the results, so I actually shifted over here. I do like this viscose trimmer because it has the wire guide and I can make it exact. I know exactly where I'm going to cut. So I switched over, but whichever cutting tool or machine that you have is perfect, and I wanted these to have a nice crisp edge to them because the edges were going to show. So I am cutting all of these, every single one, and I have a couple of each color because I wasn't sure how many I was going to need going down the page. Now the reason that they are 4 inches across is because that's how wide I want them to be. I'm going to have a little border around my card front here. So usually my card is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. So that's why I'm going to have a 4 inches width to these little strips. So now I am going to pop these down. So all you do, and I am going to use my grid mat here, and this will help a little bit just with me lining them up and keeping them straight. I'm going to add a little bit of liquid glue. This is the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish. I have all of the products that are still available. I will always link them down below in the description box. Some of the items I use aren't available anymore, and I apologize for that. But the ones that are, I will definitely do my best to link them down below. Now I came to put down my second little orange piece here, and I kind of couldn't get a grasp where I needed to put it, so I just needed to cut that off so I could kind of just in my head get it sorted. So all you do is I am going to shift 1 1/2 of those squares down from the previous color, have 1 point facing in towards the right and then 1 point facing in towards the left, and then you're kind of going to fishtail all the way down. So I started off with a red cardstock, orange, now I'm moving on to yellow, and all I do is have one facing one way and one facing the other. And then I can kind of zoom in here and it's going to create this really nice pattern going straight down the middle. This is a really, really simple card front, and yet I really enjoyed making it, and it's fun to create without being difficult at all. So I'm just going to work my way down. As I said, I like the liquid glue because it gives you a chance to kind of shift it directly and make sure it's in the right place. However, I really like this one because I know that if it smushes out at all, that I'm not going to get any little glue marks or little shine marks or anything like that, especially once it has completely dried. So I'm working my way down here, and again, you just have to make sure, all you want to make sure is that the bottom is straight. So the 2 points are kind of lined up nice and straight along the bottom there, and then everything else kind of takes care of itself. I go off the bottom here, off a little bit, so that I know when I cut it down, the pattern will continue perfectly. Now I know I've used this one before. Now I have 2 pieces of cardstock here, and they both have stick-it adhesive on the back. And I have this thank you die set. This is from, I think it was maybe a collaboration between Pink Fresh Studios and scrapbook.com, but a really nice, gorgeous, thin scripty die. I like it because it's nice and big, and I also like it because it's kind of nice and dainty and just has the right amount of swirly, and yet you can read it nicely. So a scripty little thank you. And when it does come down to these little scripty words, I am going to stack these up, and it just makes my life easier having the Stick It adhesive on the back. Now that is just a really thin double-sided adhesive. It's extremely thin, and I love it when I am lining up these fine dies because it means that I can kind of get things in place, and then it's not permanent until you push down on it and kind of really push it together. So it does make life easier. However, I've shown in previous videos that you can just use some liquid glue on the back of these just fine, and that works perfectly too. So I'm just getting out all the little bits in the middle of the A and the K, and then I will take off one of the release papers and stack these up. I kind of get them in the right place and then put them between my thumb and my first finger and make sure that they are lined up perfectly. I'm going to layer up 3 of these. It depends on the weight of your cardstock, how many you want to layer up. If it's a really thin cardstock, then you might want to do 4 or so layers. But if it's a really thick cardstock, then 2 or 3 might just be absolutely fine. So you can see I kind of pinch it between my thumb and my forefinger, and that way everything is lined up perfectly. Now, I think these ones are sold out at the moment, and I'm really sorry about this. I'm not going to show you how to do this again because I know that you've seen it in all my previous videos, but I am going to make the most of this set. And this is this kind of 2 different stamp sets and 1 die set that coordinates with them. I noticed that they actually just came out with another 1 or 2 that coordinate with it in their new release. I don't need those at the moment. This is plenty for me for now, but it is good to know that there are lots of different stamps coming out for that one same die set, because I really want to get the best value for money when I am going to invest in a stamp or a die set, and knowing that I have more options available definitely helps for the one die set. So these are strips that I have previously cut, and I just have a whole little cup that sits on my desk, and it has all of these in it, and I'm just going to choose one of them. I have them in different colors there ready to go. This is nice and dry now, so I'm able to trim this down. You can use a trimmer, but I just love the long bladed scissors. They work perfectly well. And as I said, I went off the bottom of the card so that I could continue on the pattern, but I'm going to snip that off so it will leave that gorgeous little frame when I pop it down onto my card base. And I love this because I love looking at that little fishtail pattern that goes right down the center. Now you could put this any way you wanted to, vertical or horizontal on your card, but for this one I think I am going to go landscape. And I do want to make sure that I don't overtake the background because it is definitely the star here. However, you always want your sentiment to be red and to kind of obviously shine through. However, the background was the fun part here, and I don't want to cover up that fishtail detail. So I'm going to make sure that my sentiment is definitely down towards the bottom of my card. Now I just did that onto really nice thin copy paper when I put all of those sheets of coloured cardstock, so it's not too thick at all. The card is nice and light and is not kind of top heavy or going to topple over anything, which is really important when you are card making. Popped it on with some liquid glue, and I'm going to pop up that little sentiment with a little bit of foam tape. Now here I come to adhere these down, and I picked up my glue and had totally forgotten that I had put the Stick It adhesive on the back, so it was a good surprise that I could just pull off the release paper. And you can see, even though I've pulled off the release paper, I'm just sitting these down and they're not sticking just yet until I kind of have all of the placement. So once I think I know where I want them to go, then you'll notice that I really push down on it and it becomes completely permanent. So I'm just making sure it's straight and then push down. Now this is gorgeous as is, but just as a couple of little finishing details, I have some gems here. These are some little gems, a couple of different sizes and things. So because this is a rainbow card, there are a couple of options. I could definitely use some of these gems, Or if you just have iridescent ones or clear see-through ones, that is a great option too, because obviously it will pick up the colour from behind whatever it is sitting on, and that would work really well. Now I do happen to have several different coloured gems here, so I am going to pop some of these on just on top of their coordinating colour. And I always kind of have a play around with gems. There's no rhyme or reason as to where I place them, but I often place them in little clusters of either 2 or 3, and I know that I'm aiming for kind of 3-ish spots around the card, because that draws a nice little triangle for the eye, and it's kind of pleasing to the eye is what they seem to say these days. So that's what I kind of go for, and again I just put the kind of right colour, coordinating colour of gem with the paper. Now I stopped here and just thought I needed one more little gem, so I'm going to sneak in one more just before I finish. I use a wax pencil to pop these down. These are cheap and cheerful and the best tool that I have found for picking up gems and things. Thank you so much for joining me today for this really clean and simple fun card using up scraps or some paper, coloured paper, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, bye!